Alright, hello everyone. This is Fabio here again for another AFL video. This time we're switching things around. I have a guest who happens to be my father. He's also called Fabio, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, that's Fabio 1, Fabio 2.
But, well, basically today we thought we'd just refresh the format a little bit. And instead of me talking to the camera, I'll just show the mix session of this song to someone and have some interaction and see how it turns out. So for today, we're going with Hampaat again for their second single. And without further ado, let's dive into the session. Okay, so the way everything is laid out here, this is the mixing. So for mixing, we basically go into every little element of the track. All the separate pieces of the drums, all the guitars, and we just do a balance and process everything as it needs to be. So as you can see here on this screen, you can see the arrangement section where you can actually see all the timeline with all the files. And the way I normally set this up, and especially for the way I mixed this song using the desk, these are all the audio files, so these are the individual tracks.
Is there a specific order you have to put the files?
I mean, it's up to you. Like, you make your own organization. The way I like to approach it is I have drums, and then they're always this color. Then pink is bass. There aren't really actual guitars on this track, electric guitars. So this kind of sounds like a very distorted fuzz guitar. So I have it colored as I would with guitars. Then this yellow ones are synths, so synthesizers. And then the greens are vocals, lead vocals, and then the blues are printed effects. One thing that will not work, so we won't be able to listen to the full mix as it was, like just with playback, because a lot of the plugins that I have, or that I had at the time, I don't have anymore, because I had a whole sweep up of my computer, and along with that, a whole bunch of my plugins just went to shit. But I mean, we should still be able to get a clear image.
That's Mixing for Dummies, and that's me trying to understand a little bit of this here.
So again, this is where I keep all my main files, and then all of these are bus. So bus is basically grouping tracks. So instead of having to move around 6 files of kick drums, I send them all into one track, which is the kick bus. And then, it's just one track of kicks that you use to balance with everything else. You have 5 different sounds. You balance them to sound the best, and then you balance this one with the rest of the song. So all of those tracks are coming as groups here, and then you see there's no files because they're just passing audio. And then these guys are the ones that I send to the desk. So if you go on to the mixer view of the DAW, here in these are the buses. So the audio tracks are all the way to the left, to the right, and here to the left you can see all the buses, and then you can see output 3, output 4. That would be, kick, snare, toms on these 2 guys, then overheads and rooms on this guy. But the same thing for bass, so all those, 4 or 5 tracks of bass come here, then go there. So same for everything else. In the end, we should end up with all these 14 faders up here. The auxes are going to 17, 18, so they should be coming up here instead of there, because I had the whole desk was set up a little bit different when I mixed this. And all of this then, through these buttons here, you basically have this is a semi-matrix. So you have all the 16 channels, you can send them to different outputs. You just assign what you want to send where. So in this case, from the notes that I took, drums are going to 1 and 2. So all the drums are going to 1 and 2. All the music, which is the instruments, so in this case was the bass, there's no guitars, but what would be the guitars, and the synths would go to, oh my bad, they would go to 3 and 4. Then the vocals would go to 5 and 6, and the effects would go to 7 and 8.
Okay,
which is
so
here.
Here you control it individually, and there you control it by groups.
Yes.
Is that what it
Yes. So there's multiple stages of summing everything down.
So you take 16 channels and transform into 8.
Yeah, into
That's-
actually 4 stereo pairs.
Okay.
So this is left and right. This is all the drums with all the stereo image. So some things are placed on the left, some things are placed on the right, some in the middle, and then you basically have, you know, a little.
How do you choose what goes in the right or what goes in the left or in the middle?
You can do it either here or here through these buttons. So this
Okay,
would be
but
right in the middle, and then
Okay, what I meant was how do you know what is better to sound in each side?
oh, okay. So when you're mixing something, it's a lot of times it's all about space, and you want to create space for everything to sound in a way that you can, you know, identify what's being played. So for drums, for example, you would have, if you think of you're sitting on a drum set, you have your snare right in the middle, your kick drum right in the middle, but then your hi-hat is kind of to the side. When you're playing, you kind of hear it coming from the left side here, right? If you're the drummer, if you're thinking drummer's perspective. Same thing for the cymbals and for the toms and floors. So you basically create that image. So if you're, you know, mixing drums, you know, maybe the hi-hat you pan 50% to the left, the snare you pan right in the middle, maybe some cymbals you just, you know, pan all the way to the side, and they're very open and out of the way of the snare and the kick, for example. And you also create space by manipulating the frequencies. So when you're using an equalizer, you might want to, you know, bring down a frequency area, like for a kick drum, that might get in the way of a bass that is also like low frequencies. So it's all about, you know, finding a spot for everything, and you do that with levels and frequency manipulation and, you know, stereo manipulation, sending things to one side or the other. So guitars, a lot of times you record it twice and then you throw everything to the side, and it gives you that, you know, big open guitar sound. And then you have the drums and the vocals and the kick right in the middle, and things are, you know, spread to the sides.
No, it's like life, always trying to find a sweet spot.
Basically. So yeah, so again, you know, with all the summing thing, you have the main tracks, they get summed here, then they go here, and then they finally get, you know, brought down from 16 to 4 stereo pairs, and then this is what's going to back to the converters. So this is from these outputs, they go back into the computer in get this out of the way, in these 4 tracks here. So these are the returns, and then these get summed to this guy, which is, you know, the final stage on the chain. And then this basically again sums 4 stereo tracks to 1 stereo track, and then I have some, you know, processing happening there as well, just to glue everything together and make it sound nice. So maybe we can start, you know, bringing up some faders and see if we can get a sound going. Let me mute these guys first. And I mean, again, bear in mind it's not going to sound like the final mix just because a lot of the processing is not there. Let's see. Can we get a kick sound? There we go. There's a kick. There's our snare. see there's some bleed. You know, when we recorded the drums, you know, the microphone on the snare will pick up some of the rest of the drums, which is fine. Sometimes you try and take it out, sometimes you just leave it, and it, you know, adds to the sound. So this should be the toms. And then this is the two mics that we had on top of the drums, getting all the cymbals and like a full image of the drum set. Also the room mic is here. We had a mic like about 1.5 meters away from the drum kit in Omni configuration, so it picks up from every side. It's not directional, and it just picks up like the whole sound of the room we were recording. Now from this you can actually already see that there's quite a lot of different, it's not just the natural drum sound. It's very processed because there's a whole bunch of samples, and especially on the snare sound, you can see there's actually a gun sound layered on the snare that I think is
gun
quite
sound?
fun.
I
Yeah.
didn't get that.
So if we go into the intro here, look at that. Isolate that guy. So right there. It's a shotgun sound. I mean, it's processed too, because I cut the transient. The transient is like the impact of it. So I just wanted the tail. But when you add all the rest of the, you know, the snare sound with that, it just goes whoosh. With the song, if you listen to the final, you know, mix here, it works perfectly with the ambience that we created for this. So yeah, that's a little bit of the drum sound. So let's see, the bass is quite crazy as well. Lots of distortion, so it sounds like a guitar as well as the bass, because they only use drums and bass live. So we wanted to rely the least amount we could in having guitars recorded. Then next on the list would be this guy again, which is the very weird synth that sounds like a guitar, like a very distorted fuzz guitar. It's not really like a guitar, it's more like a old computer sound.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Like an old video game.
Yeah. But the idea for this one was just texture and openness. You saw that it's coming out of both speakers. Hard left, hard right, and then it's just adding. So, if we go back into the intro again, and we open up this guy, so there's a little synth sound as well. So it's all the ambience is coming to this. There's some rain sounds, like a little weird magnetic field thing, and the main pad, which is this almost like string sound.
Can you let me listen?
Yep. Another synth sound.
Was isolated. I noticed the rain. Now I can't.
It's not there anymore. So the rain is just supposed to be there in the intro to fill out and give the the listener this kind of eerie atmosphere. That's kind of like a dark, rainy night or something. All right, so with the vocals, what we did, because Arthur had this vision of how his voice like how he wanted his voice to sound, we basically recorded the vocal twice with slightly different registers on his voice. So one is a little bit higher, more graspy one. The other one is lower, like he normally sings. And then we panned one of them with a lot of chorus, which is like a modulation effect, and you'll hear it in a second. So one is panned, the other one is in the middle, and it's just kind of like a very weird, like floaty sounding vocal. You go here on verse 2.
False eyes
Yeah, so this is the
of devouring spiders.
this one
Look at us.
is the higher one, and the other one is the
False eyes
very open, low.
of devouring spiders.
So when you listen to everything together now, roughly how the mix sounds, but without a lot of the processing. Now these two faders here, they have all the effects. So on top of all the processing that we do with the frequencies, with the EQ and the compressor, we have a whole bunch of effects that are reverbs, delays, more modulation, distortion, all that stuff that you have your dry signal, which is the main one, but then you send it in parallel to one of these processors and you bring it up in parallel. So you have the dry signal being the driving force, but you also have all these things happening on the background that you send to the background, and just adds a whole bunch of texture to the track. So if we listen to it alone here, check this out. This is all the echoes, all the... Let's go to bridge. So basically everything is from the track is going somewhere as far as effects go. Yeah, look at that. And then on the with the gun sound, a lot of the tail is also here with the snare going, So if I take this off, sounds dry.
False
It's wet.
of devouring spiders.
So you have 3 dimensions. You have left, right, center, and depth of field, which you always want to play with those things and put them in their space where they're able to sound the best they can, and also move in and out so you can have a focus point. Like you don't want too many things happening that take the focus away from the vocal if that's the center piece. But yeah, this is kind of how I went about this particular track. Again, just getting a whole bunch of stuff, basically bringing everything down to smaller levels and just breaking it down until you get to the stage where you just have one file, and then that's what you send off to mastering.
So you still have the mastering after this?
Yes. The mastering is a whole different process.
Is there a specific mastering for the kind of media you're gonna play?
Yes.
When I, as a client, get a file, I don't know to which media it's best mastered to.
Not necessarily. You might know, because the idea is when you send it off to a mastering engineer, they will ask you, like, okay, so how are you going to release this? Is this going to be a vinyl? Is this going to be on CD? Is this going to be on streaming like Spotify or Pandora, whatever?
Okay, so when I get, as a consumer, when I get it, it's already mastered the way it should be.
Yes.
For
yes.
the channel, I'm getting it.
Yeah. So most guys will master it to like streaming standards, but if you're gonna print it to vinyl, you have to have like a slightly different process. You have to pay attention to different things, and if you're mastering it to CD, it's similar to the streaming, but it's gonna be a lot louder, and basically the format in which you give the file back is a little bit different.
Okay, got it. Interesting.
That's it. Well, I think this was a slightly longer version of the series. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy the track. It's called Web. Yeah, let us know in the comments if you like this sort of a more interactive format for this video series. And as always, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.
All right. Thanks. And I learned we are gorgeous worms from the song. All right.